Booker with Tucker on him. Throws it up for Ayton. Shot blocked by Antetokounmpo. What a block from Giannis. The long wait has ended after a half-century. The Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions once again.
Booker, this is for the win. Got it!
In with 17 and 12. Up ahead to Bridges.
Where you're at your very best. In the paint.
And Johnson, he throws it down. And a blocking foul called on Tucker. That big body in front of you. Crowder looking, throws it alley-oop. Oh! He puts it down! He puts it down!
What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to be talking about more playoff teams soon, but let's start off with the best team in the league. If that sounds interesting, show your support by subscribing and hitting the like button. But the Phoenix Suns are not finals contenders. They are the team to beat. Ever since the end of the 2020 season where the Suns went on their 8-0 finals run, Phoenix has a record of 114 wins and 38 losses, a win percentage of 75%. Let's talk about those bubble Suns for a second. A team that wasn't even supposed to be in the Orlando bubble, as the Phoenix Suns barely even had a record to qualify for it. But they were the only team that managed to win all 8 of their regular season games, going on an impressive near playoff run, and they would have made it in if it weren't for one miss by Karis LeVert. While it was disappointing to not make the playoffs, the 8-0 run gave the Phoenix Suns and their fans plenty of hope, and that hope was compounded later in the offseason where star point guard Chris Paul was traded to the Valley for Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, and a 2022 first-round pick. And as you all know, Chris Paul instantly turned this team around. The Suns won 51 games in 2020, a 17-game win difference from the year before. They ended with the second best record in the league, a top 10 offense and defense. Chris Paul finished 5th in MVP voting. This team wasn't even supposed to make the playoffs, yet they made the finals. And they were only 2 games away from winning it all until Giannis went beast mode, averaging 35 points and 13 rebounds per game. It's a shame to lose in the finals, but a finals run like this only shows that things are looking up in the Valley. That offseason, the Suns re-signed Chris Paul to a larger contract, traded for Landry Shamet, and brought in backup center JaVale McGee. Not major moves, but moves that would prove to be huge for Phoenix. So let's talk about this current 2021 Suns roster. They have the 3rd best offense in the league and the 2nd best defensive rating in the league. As I write this, they have a record of 41 wins and only 9 losses, on a pace to win 67 games. They have a 3-game lead on the 2nd seed Warriors, a 7-game lead on the 3rd seed Grizzlies, and a 9-game lead on the 1st seed Bulls of the East. Currently, they're on an 11-game win streak and have won 14 of their last 15 games, while also adding in a franchise record 17-game win streak earlier this year. So let's go up and down this roster and see what exactly makes them so good. Things start with one of the best shooting guards in the league, that would be Devin Booker. Right now, Booker's averaging 25, 5, and 4, and even though his stats look down compared to last year, he's overall playing much better. He has been a much better defender compared to years past. His playmaking has improved a lot of that I believe coming from Chris Paul, and he's just been a craftier scorer from all levels of the court. One thing he has really elevated his game is in the clutch last few minutes of the game. Last year he was shooting about 33% in the clutch, but now he is up to 67% this year. I have noticed he can be a little streaky in both good and bad ways. He can sometimes go like 4 of 25 for one night, but then he'll go 17 of 20 the next night. He can just be that crazy and really carry an offense when he is needed to. At the moment, he's also sneaking his way into the top 10 of MVP voting, but I think we all know that isn't going to happen. But some may argue Devin Booker isn't even the best player to be on the Suns right now, as that would be their point guard Chris Paul. Paul is averaging 15 points and 10 assists, leading the league in assists while also averaging another 2 steals per game. His scoring is down slightly a bit from the last year, but it just doesn't really feel like it. He's been methodical in how he is attacking defenses, navigating the pick and roll. His passes has been otherworldly, leading one of the best attacks in the league. He is absolutely lethal in finding the open man in the corner, dumping it down low to the big man, or using his patented S attack to find an open mid-range shot over a big man. He's been leading them well on the fast break as well, making mind-boggling passes every single night. And of course, it's Chris Paul. He's always going to be a solid defender and just a true emotional leader for this team. And one thing Chris Paul does better than just about anybody else who have ever played the game is make his teammates better. The teammate Chris Paul gets the best out of would be DeAndre Ayton. I already made a whole video talking about him, so you can go check that out just to get some more analysis on Ayton. But Ayton is arguably having his best year so far. He's been an amazing roll man, an amazing lob man, and just a good anchor for the Suns on offense and defense. He's also sitting around a top 5 or 6 center spot in the league, however he has missed almost half of the team's games so far. Someone who hasn't missed a single game yet, and someone who has made huge strides this year is their wing, Mikal Bridges. Bridges has easily elevated himself to one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. I definitely think we're going to be seeing him on one of the 2 All-NBA teams. He's an incredibly good catch and shoot 3-point player, but he's expanded his game beyond that. He's developed a great chemistry with Chris Paul, making him one of the best cutters in the league. He's also been able to do a little bit more in the pick and roll this year, and he started to show off a bit of a nasty floater he has, being able to rise it up around the rim easily. And just the older version of Mikal Bridges is basically Jay Crowder. Crowder plays a perfect 3-and-D role, and he is basically your perfect modern day 4 spot. Being one of the veterans, he's also just one of the bigger, better leaders and one of the better emotional guys on this team. That was the starting lineup. Let's talk about the bench, because I think the bench and depth of the Phoenix Suns is what really separates them from most other teams in the league. Their best bench player, and one of their just flat out best players, someone who I've been wanting to talk about for a while, is forward Cameron Johnson. Johnson is an amazing 3-level scorer. He's hitting 2.5 threes while shooting 43% from the field. He can rise up over you, and just like Mikal, he's an excellent cutter and off-ball scorer. He's one of the most slept on players who has plenty of game-changing performances. Sure, there may be some nights where he just goes out and doesn't do much, but there are also countless times just this year where Mikal put up 15, 20, 25 points per game, and he was the reason why the Suns were able to win. Cameron Johnson and even Mikal Bridges, to that fact, are honestly 2 guys who I think can be scoring probably 19 points per game on another team. Instead though, they're taking this role in Phoenix and they are making the most of it. These guys are really the reason why this team is as good as they are. And the other Cameron on the team being Cameron Payne, he's another great scorer coming off the bench, only averaging about 9 or 10 points per game as he is in a bit of a smaller role this year. But he's still been playing incredibly well. His per 36 minutes back that up, where he's averaging 18 points and 6 assists, as well as that he's developed into a pretty solid defender this year. And finally, the last player to talk about is JaVale McGee, who is quite possibly the best backup center in the league. McGee is consistently changing the game and bringing new energy every single time he steps onto the court. Every single time he goes up and he gets an incredible block or some type of throwdown that really makes you question why he's coming off the bench. Per 36 minutes, he is averaging 21 points, 16 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game. Him and DeAndre Ayton simply just make up one of the best front courts in the league. Some other guys that we've also seen float around their lineup being Bismack Biyombo, Elfrid Payton, and Abdel Nader have all provided pretty solid depth in the limited minutes that they've played. And don't even get me started on Jalen Smith, but you can go see this video right here. And finally, let's just talk about Monty Williams and this kind of system that Phoenix has developed. Last year, Monty Williams won Coach of the Year, and he is definitely putting that on display right now. Everyone knows he's one of the best in the league when it comes to developing relationships with players and truly being there, not just as a coach, but as a friend and just like any other guy in the locker room. And while I would say that he has special relationships with just all of his players, we all know that Monty and Chris Paul go way back, and it's very clear in their coaching. Defensively, I think Phoenix just has an excellent team from a coaching standpoint. They're an amazing team, defensive team. They have a few amazing defenders like Paul, Bridges, and Ayton. But the other part is they just don't really have any weak defenders. Everybody's really good at their rotations, knowing when or when not to leave a guy open, and they're usually just not giving up too many bad shots, which is a huge reason as to why they are good as they are. Offensively, one thing that is so special about this Phoenix team is that they're never overly reliant on just one player or one way of scoring. I mentioned earlier how Devin Booker can sometimes be a streaky player, and sometimes he just isn't having it going, but when Devin Booker can't hit his shots, there are 2 or 3 other guys who are ready to fill that spot and make the buckets they need. Phoenix has no issues bruising you in from the inside or using a deadly pick and roll at the mid-range, and they have plenty of outside shooters to help space out the floor. Ayton, McGee, and Booker are all very capable scorers from the post, and even once in a while we see Chris Paul try and back down his man. They don't break up the flow of their offense by isolating too well, but when they do, they're typically pretty good at it. Phoenix is also an amazing fast break and transition team. They typically run smaller 4s and faster 5s, meaning that they're always able to beat the other team down the court, and of course Chris Paul is just an amazing transition transition passer. They have a flexible lineup that can match with basically every contender out there. There's no glaring hole, there's no mismatch on defense. Maybe if you want to say Chris Paul only being 6'1", but still, he's been around forever, he knows how to use that size. Virtually everyone who isn't a center is an average or above average shooter, meaning that you really can't sag off too much to go help on a Booker or a Paul isolation, as they're gonna make you pay. I already created a mini documentary about it, but Phoenix has been losing for a long time. Basically throughout most of the 2010s, they were one of the worst teams in the league, but they have seemingly adapted to that overnight. They know what it's like to lose, but that also means that they know how to appreciate a win. These players understand not to just play for stats or to play for themselves, that they're playing for a team and that they're playing for something bigger than themselves. You can see it on their facial expressions, you can see it in the huddle, you can see it in the energy in the arena. This same team that has sucked for so long is now making others pay for it by demolishing them every single night. Guys like Chris Paul and Jay Crowder have developed into excellent leaders with many player-led meetings, training session, watching film. There's never an off day with these guys, even if they don't have a scheduled practice. The gym's full, they're watching film, there's always just something going on in some type of way for improvement. They have the best record in the league and they still aren't complacent with it because they know what it takes and they know what they need to do to win the championship. Their chemistry and culture is just up that with any other team in the league, and honestly, it's what makes them better than most teams in the league. While other teams may have more stars on paper, the Suns just have that it factor with each other, where Bridges, Crowder, Booker, they can all cut and someone's gonna find them every single time. Guys who are friends both on and off the court. This is a perfect team that was assembled by their GM James Jones, and everything is finally coming together now. The Phoenix Suns have one goal this year, and that is to prove that last year's finals run was not a fluke and that this team is for real. And from my accounts, this team is definitely real. They're not finals contenders. They are the team to beat.